How are we doing, Bulls Nation? We've got a very important week coming up for the Bulls. 4 games, all of which have playoff seeding implications, given we only have 8 games left in the season. And at the time of this recording, the Bulls are sitting 5th in the East, 3 games behind Milwaukee for the 4 seed, 1 game ahead of the Raptors, who are currently 6th, and 2 games ahead of the Cavs, who are 7th. After a big win over the Cavs in Cleveland, hopefully that will give the Bulls some momentum going into this week and what will be somewhat of an easier schedule of games this week. However, if the Bulls have proven anything this season, is that they often fall victim of not taking certain teams seriously. And of course, the Bulls have struggled on the road this season, no matter who they're playing against. And the Bulls have to kick off their week tonight at Madison Square Garden against the New York Knicks. Then it'll be a back-to-back traveling to DC to take on the Wizards. Then the Bulls will finally head back home to play the Clippers on Thursday and close out the week on Saturday against the Miami Heat, who have recently been sliding and lost that #1 seed in the East more recently. So in today's video, we're going to be going over each of these games, things to be looking out for, and of course, my predictions for the week. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Real quick, since we're getting close to the end of the season, and the playoffs will be kicking off soon. If you're new to the channel or if you've been watching for a while, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're liking the content, as about 48% of you are not subscribed to the channel. I'll be covering the Bulls all postseason long, as well as during the offseason, so you don't want to miss out. But anyway, enough about that. 2 more weeks, guys. Just 2 more weeks of the regular season and what will be an intense final 2 weeks for the Bulls in that tight race that currently exists in the Eastern Conference. The playoffs begin on April 16th. And at the moment, we know that the Bulls will at a minimum be guaranteed to play in the play-in and will reach their first postseason since 2017. Now, as I mentioned, the Bulls will kick off their week tonight against the New York Knicks, who have arguably had the most disappointing season in the NBA. For a team that had one of their best seasons in years last year, coming out of nowhere and finishing 4th in the East, even though they fell pretty hard in the playoffs, getting knocked out of the first round in 5 games to the Hawks. But the Knicks have been nothing but short of underwhelming with the expectations they had going into this season and the moves that they made during the offseason. But for the Knicks, even though they haven't been officially eliminated and are not going to be making the play-in, as they currently sit 11th in the East and 4.5 games back behind the Hawks at 10th, and there's no chance in hell with only 8 games remaining that the Hawks are going to slide that much and have the Knicks win out for the rest of their schedule. That being said, though, you guys know Tom Thibodeau isn't going to just accept defeat and treat this as an end-of-season tank job. He's going to get his guys to play like they're still in this thing and play hard. Like, as much of a disaster as the Knicks have been, Tibbs is going to push these guys, especially when they go against the Bulls, with the way the Bulls ended their relationship with Tibbs back in 2015. Now, the biggest advantage for the Bulls going into this one is the fact that the Knicks just played last night in a win against the Pistons, in which they barely beat the Pistons actually, and a second game of a back-to-back against a team who has had some added rest is always going to be a challenge. On top of that, the Knicks still have a lot of injured players. Kemba Walker and Cam Reddish have been shut down for the rest of the season. Rose still remains out. Nerlens Noel is also out at the time of this recording. I mean, the main thing in this one is managing the front court of Randle and Mitchell Robinson. Robinson being a strong defender and Randle being a great player on offense and a guy who can clean the glass. That being said, though, Randle has been very underwhelming this season. After being selected All-NBA second team last year, he has not been efficient as we saw last season. His effort hasn't been the same and just looks disinterested most nights on the court. I'm curious to see what Billy Donovan will do on Julius Randle, whether he'll start Javonte Green or go another route, or even starting Patrick Williams for the first time, maybe even Tristan Thompson, even though I think those 2 options are probably going to be pretty unlikely, especially with Tristan Thompson. The Thompson-Vucevic experiment, putting them together in the front court, is just not a good fit. I'm not worried at all about the Knicks backcourt. RJ Barrett, yes, is having one of his better seasons in terms of scoring, averaging near 20 points per game, but he's also still really struggled with his efficiency, shooting 41% and 34% from 3. Evan Fournier has been having a really poor season after the Knicks signed him this past offseason. Emmanuel Quickley is nice. I think that he has some potential, but nothing I would be worried about going up against Zach or Ayo. Aside from all of that, I mean, the Knicks are one of the worst offensive teams in the NBA. Their defense, which was top-notch last season, hasn't been that great this year. They're dead last in the league in assists per game. Like, if anything, this is a game the Bulls should be able to win by way of a shootout, given the need for defense against a team like the Knicks isn't as critical when there's such a poor offensive team when it comes to scoring and passing, that is. The Bulls just have to play their game on offense, stay focused, play smart basketball. Ball and player movement are going to be key, and limit Randle from getting hot because he can go off in a hurry despite being very inconsistent this season. Then the Bulls are right back at it the following night against the Wizards, which, if you remember the last time the Bulls played the Wizards in DC, DeRozan had that insane game winner for the second straight game, hitting that three from the corner. I mean, what else is there to say other than in this game the Bulls need to win? Because unlike the Knicks, who are still going to be playing hard and try to snag that final play-in spot, or even the other night when the Bulls played the Pelicans, and the other team that was fighting for that final play-in spot, the Wizards season is all but done, and they're just looking to get some of their younger players some development and experience ever since Bradley Beal had that season-ending injury. The Wizards did just beat the Warriors last night, but before that, they were 2-8 in their last 10. Kyle Kuzma, who you could argue is their second best player at this point behind Bradley Beal, is out of the lineup at the moment anyway. Porzingis has been playing well for the Wizards since being traded there, but really with Kuzma out, Porzingis is the only weapon that team has right now, if you want to call it that. Vucevic has actually done pretty well against Porzingis in the past, so I'm not too concerned about that matchup, especially when it comes to rebounding, as Vucevic is a much better rebounder than Kristaps Porzingis is. Rui Hachimura has been looking nice at times for them, but again, the overall talent level compared to the Bulls with guys like Lavine and DeRozan shouldn't even be a challenge, especially with some of the young, inexperienced lineups the Wizards have been playing recently. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify this game because I have been surprised before and stunned by some Bulls losses this season, but I would be shocked if the Bulls lost this game given the direction that the Wizards are taking for the remainder of the season. Then the Bulls will head back home to play the Clippers at the United Center, and it's been a long time since the Bulls saw the Clippers, back when we played the Lakers and Clippers in back-to-back games at Staples Center at the beginning of the season. The Clippers, although, have been somewhat exceeded expectations, knowing they were going to be without Kawhi Leonard all season, and then of course Paul George has been missing a lot of time this year. They still have been able to be a competitive team for the most part. However, more recently they have struggled, currently on a 5-game losing streak, losing 8 of their last 10. They'll still make the play-in, but likely won't be getting past the first round if they even make it out of the play-in. I mean, look, when I look at this roster on the Clippers, and I'm actually shocked that they have been able to maintain a top 8 seed in the West. Like, is Reggie Jackson really their leading scorer, followed by Marcus Morris? The good thing for the Bulls about this game is that they should, in theory, match up pretty well against this team. Vucevic has done well against Zubac in the past. Outside of Zubac, the Clippers don't have a ton of size. And again, the Bulls have more talent in the backcourt than the Clippers do. The Clippers are probably better overall defensively, at least currently anyway, than the Bulls are. Just depends on which Bulls team shows up on that end of the floor in this game. Again, this is another case in which the Bulls have by far better talent than the Clippers do. It's just going to be a matter of if the Bulls wanted more to win a game that is so critical for playoff positioning against a team that is slumping. Then finally, the Bulls finish off the week on Saturday at home against the Miami Heat, a team they have very much struggled against all season, even in games in which the Heat have been undermanned. That being said, though, the Heat have been on a downward trend since holding that number 1 spot in the East for a good portion of the season. They have recently lost 4 in a row and are now tied with the Celtics for the number 1 seed, and they're 4-6 in their last 10. I'm sure you guys probably saw Butler and Udonis Haslem getting into an argument on the bench, as well as with Coach Eric Spoelstra, which was hilarious. Either way, this is still a very good Miami Heat team, and the Bulls do not match up well against them with their high-level defense. Bam Adebayo being an athletic big that Vucevic is unable to guard, and conversely, hard for Vucevic to gain traction on offense with how great of a defender Bam is. Tyler Hero is having an incredible season off the bench and will likely win 6th Man of the Year and maybe even win the Most Improved Player this season. Kyle Lowry has been a great floor general and veteran voice for that Heat team, and without Lonzo Ball, I was really not experienced enough to go against an NBA champion like Kyle Lowry. You could even say that for Lonzo Ball as well. Also, I know some people have been saying, well, maybe Lonzo will be back by the end of this week, but I honestly can't see it happening, especially when we haven't received any updates at all on his status aside from him ramping down his running. But either way, this is still a great Heat team. And as much as I'd like to think that the Bulls will take advantage of the Heat slumping a bit, kind of like every other team was doing against the Bulls recently, I still think at the end of the day, the Heat are an all-around better team and are a better coach team that know how to take advantage of the Bulls' weaknesses. But all that being said, as for my predictions for this week, I still think this is going to be a great second to the last week of the season for the Bulls, with them going 3-1, only losing to the Miami Heat for the reasons I just explained. I think the only game that might be more of a toss-up than people think is the game against the Knicks, because it's on the road. It's still considered somewhat of a rivalry game, and the Knicks are going to come out hungry looking for a win. But I think ultimately the Bulls will prevail. I do suspect it will be a close game, though. I have a feeling DeRozan is going to have a big game in that one at MSG. The games against the Wizards and the Clippers, I mean, the Bulls really should be able to beat these teams who simply don't have enough talent to win those games against the Bulls. But we have seen lesser talented teams beat the Bulls before, so who knows? I want to know what you guys think, though. Let me know in the comments how you think the Bulls will do this week. Don't forget to tune into the Bulls game tonight against the Knicks, as well as my live chat on the channel and in the Discord. Until then, guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.